If you've seen my Waterfall table build, then you recognize this live edge slab. It's a slab that came from the same tree as my Waterfall table. And at the time, I didn't have any ideas of what to do with it. But I was thinking about my table the other night. I said, whether cosmetically or functionally, it would be nice to have a Waterfall stool out of the same material to add to the table. So I talked with my daughter. She's going to ultimately get the table. And she really liked the idea of a matching live edge slab bench to go with the live edge slab table. And on the bench where it's going to be sat on, there's going to be certain forces applied, maybe two people sitting on it at the same time. So I want to use a method that I haven't seen yet. I'm going to use dominoes, but I'm going to use another method too. I'm going to find the center, and it don't have to be the exact center, and look at the small team. And then I will shift that to accommodate the top to get the look that I'm going after. The other 18 inches, which is going to be the height, will be a leg on each end, because again, across the top, down the leg, at that 90-degree joinery, I want a seamless waterfall effect on both ends. I'm going to set back up on the table saw, and I'm going to set my blade at exactly 45 degrees to be able to cut my miters. There's literally no light coming in at the intersection of the gauge and the blade. And I will cut my legs. I'm going to place the legs up against the fence, use the fence as the guide, and run my legs through. Now I'm going to make several passes because I want to sneak up on it. What I want to ensure is that I'll leave the top surface of the show side. I do not want to cut into that because it's going to affect how the grain matches across the joint. I did some work on the miter edge, right at that thin line, with my block plane to ensure I was right at 90 degrees relative to the square edge. Okay, there's square, except for right at the very end, about an eighth of an inch from the edge. So I do the same thing. I go all the way down, and I pull off about an eighth of an inch, just to get that small 1/8 of an inch to close up a little bit more. Again, I'm not going all the way to the end. All right, that looks good. Now what I would do is clamp it down with the show side down. Now I would go over the miter with my low angle smoothing plane. Again, I'm just barely kissing the surface with the blade. So you can see there's not much there. Now I'm not going to go all the way across because I'll blow that edge out and I will mill from this edge. All I'm doing is taking the mill marks off so I have a perfectly smooth bevel. And that's what I have off, right there. And it feels like glass. But there's a big difference in between a saw cut surface and a hand plane surface with a finely tuned hand plane. A lot of you would know that the domino has a wide and a more narrow setting. And I always try to use that across the joint. I put the narrow setting on one side here on the bench top and the wide setting on the leg. And what that does for you, when you're gluing up, it gives you a little bit of room to be able to push the leg one way or another to match the waterfall grain across the joint. Okay, I have my domino mortises cut. I have 6 of them. In the center of the dominoes, I'm going to put a sliding dovetail. Then I will dovetail 2 edges that are 90 degrees apart. And what that will do is it will allow this support piece to slide down into the housed dovetail, and this will be the support for the seat. So I have my dovetail bit in, and I have it raised approximately 1/2 the thickness of the material, but a little less. I have one of my two supports. I've checked it with my start. So I've got a good 90-degree angle. I put a mark here and a mark here indicating where my sliding dovetail will be. And what I will do, I will take a small cut, flip it around, go to the other side, just to establish the cut line. Now I can adjust my fence 1/1000th of an inch along the rail system. I will make my initial cut, and then I will adjust it some, and then I will drop back and dial it in incrementally with this dial 1/1000th of an inch until I get the fit that I'm looking for. Now I don't want a really tight fit, and the reason for that is once I apply the glue, it's a water-based glue and it's immediately going to swell the fibers of the piece. So I want to be able to slide the dovetail in my hand real easy. That way, when I'm in glue up, I'm not fighting the dominoes, not fighting the mitered waterfall edge, not fighting the sliding dovetail, because I'm going to have a lot going on at the same time. So here we go. I'm going to cut the sliding dovetail on both my support pieces. Okay, I'm really close to the final fit. Like I said, I will use my adjuster to sneak up on it 1/1000th of an inch at a time, one click at a time. Now the thing to remember, or maybe if you don't know, when you make an adjustment here, one click, which is 1/1000th of an inch, you're doubling whatever you're adjusting. The reason for that, so you run it through, flip it around, and run it through again. So really you're taking 1/1000th of an inch, in my case, off of each side. So you're making a resultant change of 2/1000th of an inch, in my case. So as you get really close, I'm going to sneak up on the fit by 1/1000th at a time per side, for a resultant of 2/1000th of an inch adjustment. Okay, I have dialed in my fit just like I want it. A good fit. I can push it in easily. Now you may notice it'll go all the way in, and that's on purpose. I only wanted to put enough dovetail there to have good glue up, good surface area, and give me good support. Now what I will do is I will measure over from the bevel to the outer edge. At the shoulder line, I will cut that much dovetail out. So what that will do is it'll allow it to go in to the shoulder mark by not having a dovetail on the end. It will pass over the area right here below the dovetail. So a good way to do that is to spin it around. Okay, with it all the way up, what I will do is I'm going to mark my dovetail. So that will tell me how much to cut off So with this cut off, it would slide over like that. I'm going to come right at that shoulder line. Okay, with my dovetail cut off, I can start it in. So if you notice right here, I've taken the shoulder line a little below the bottom of the bevel. And that's what I want, because I want to be able to have room to adjust it right at the bottom of the bevel. So that you don't know, when you're doing miter dovetails, it's really, really good practice to number what dovetail goes to what slot. So here, for instance, this would be number 1. And I'm going to put a number 1 here. This would be number 2. And then we go with number 2 lane. The reason why you do that is, even though they're all cut at the same time with the same settings, there's going to be some differences. So this slide's okay, but at the same setting, when I go to make this fit, it might not slide that well. I may have to take a 1/1000th off of that, or hit it with a shoulder plane or something like that, a piece of sandpaper, to get the fit I'm looking for. So make sure you always number your sliding dovetails, and in the end, when you're in the battle with glue up, that's the one less thing you have to fight. I have all of my sliding dovetails fitted just where I need it, not too tight, not too loose, to accommodate glue. And as you can see, they will support the bench seat really well. I have my live edge stretcher that I'm going to put on my bench. As you can see, it has live edge on both sides. I have one end cut square. This will be the shoulder of my tenon. I want to make a nice clean knife line all the way around. Because there's no square surfaces to reference from, what I'm going to do is put my scribe line right at the point of the inside of my bevel, because from this point to the same point on the other end, that will give me my actual length, shoulder to shoulder, of my stretcher. So I will place it down and I will align it to where both sides is equal to this bevel line. Take some time to ensure this is aligned correctly to get the exact length for what you need. So with this in place, I will go to the other end and I will mark the shoulder line with my marking knife. Okay, I'm perfectly aligned on the opposite side, so apply a little pressure right at the internal bevel. I will make that mark. Same thing on the back side. Now with those two marks, I will be able to make a mark across the face, step out 9/16 of an inch from my tenon, and then make that mark all the way around. I will check my points to ensure I'm there. So that's my shoulder. Now I will go 9/16 of an inch from that line, and that's the length of my tenon. So I will align those two lines. So this is my reference side. So I will measure from my reference to my cut line in several places to be able to establish a cut line all the way around, and then I will cut that with a handsaw. It'll be a tenon cut on the end and mortised into each leg. As with my marking gauge, with the same setting, I'm going to establish the shoulder line with a deep knife line all the way around. Using my stirred calipers, I'm going to find the overall, which is 2 inches, 600 thousandths. So I'm going to come back half of that, 1 inch, 300 thousandths. Coming off my center line, each side, 1/4 of an inch. Put the knife down, slide the square to it to ensure you don't lose your line. Always put the bevel on the waist side. Here, flip the bevel over. Now I will take that down to the gauge line. Again, place my knife in the line. scribe down to my gauge line. With a bevel on the waist side. All of this and all of this will go away. I would cut the sheets of my tenon on the table saw, standing in the upright position, and I would probably cut the shoulders with a handsaw. I think it'll be easier. Okay, I have the tenons cut. As you see, I lift a little bit of the line. So whenever I cut my mortise, I will fit the tenon to the mortise. Because it's a live edge slab, I'm wider on one foot than the other. So what I'm doing, I'm pulling off center, striking a vertical line through by using my long starret, striking a line and then extending that line. I found the height of my stretcher 10 inches from the inside corner of my miter to the top on all four sides, and I have a knife edge around so I can chop with a chisel. Okay, I have my table end secured to my bench with my 2 holdfasts. I've got my mortise outlined with a knife. So what I'm going to do with the bevel up is I'm going to take a little bit of the material out, and I would do that on both top and bottom to give me a little working room The reason for that is because my chisel has a bevel. So if I put it right on the line and hit it with a mallet, it will push the chisel back beyond the line, and we don't want that. So bevel down. We're moving a little bit at a time, being careful not to go to my knife edges. So I'm going to do the same thing, back up away from the knife edge, and go a little deeper. Notice I'm not leaning back toward my knife line, I'm leaning in to break the fibers. Bevel down again, and the reason for that, I don't want to damage my knife line. Going a little deeper, still bevel down. Now because I'm getting close to the lower knife line, turn my chisel around, not on the lifeline, but I'm getting close. And I'm going to push in to protect my knife line. So I have a clean cut on the bottom. I'll go back to the top, just outside of the lifeline. I'm going in the lifeline, about 90 degrees. I'm going to use a smaller chisel just to get some of the waste out. What I'm going to do is take a double square, place here to get the total height of my tenon, lock it down, and now that will be my depth gauge. So I have a ways to go yet. Level down. Use my smaller chisel to remove the waste. I'm going to use a paring chisel to clean up the sidewalls. We'll clean out the bottom, try to have somewhat of a flat bottom. That's not real critical. What is critical is the sidewalls, because that will be long grain to long grain. So when I put it in, I want to ensure that the long grain has good contact surface. I'm using my square to ensure I'm flat. Okay, what we're going to notice, like I told you earlier, I cut my tenon a little bit wide, and you can see that from the pencil line. So when I put it in, right now it should not go, and it doesn't. So I want a totally closed tenon. So I'm going to take a little bit off the bottom and a little bit off the top, so I will have the shoulder all the way around. Okay, I have a good fit. Finally, I get to glue up something after all the filling of the bug holes and sanding back to fill bug holes and sand back. Okay, I'm going to apply glue to both side walls. I will apply a little bit of glue to the domino. You can hear As it goes in, the high-pitched sound is fully seated. I have my leg support gusset ready to be glued in to each one of the legs. What's important here is that I have the shoulder of my sliding dovetail right in line with the bottom of the miter. So I've got it designed to where I can go down below the joint and then come back right to the joint. Apply an ample amount of glue. I will apply glue to both sides. Off camera, I have glued up one end just to make the glue up a little more simplistic. And what I found was on my leg gussets, the dovetail on the side and the top, I was having a hard time pulling my miter together. So to resolve that, I cut the dovetail off of the leg. So I will still have long grain to long grain glue up. So it'll be fine. So this end here is just a dry fit, and this here is the glue up. So I would take the clamps off. I would spin the bench around so I can use this end for my end clamps. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to glue this in a certain manner. Along the bevel, that's end grain. So I will apply the glue to the bevels and I will let it soak in to the end grain. And I will do that on the stretcher also. So as the glue soaks in, in a few minutes I go back and apply a little more. And that's called sizing the joint. So you're allowing the glue to soak in, reapply the glue. That way the miter is not a glue-starved joint. Now I don't want to overdo it because I don't want a lot of squeeze out, but I want to reapply just the right amount. And there again, having the other end already glued up off camera using the same method is going to greatly help me with the success of this glue up. I'm not putting it in the mortises right now. If it goes in there, that's okay. I'm not applying glue to the tendons right now. Again, trying to get an ample amount on my miter. So as you can see, some of the glue has already been absorbed by the end grain. So I'll let that sit a little more while I work up here, again on end grain in the stretcher. So I'm going to go ahead and apply a little bit to where the gusset will go. I'm going to reapply to the miter. Okay, now I'm applying to my tenon, and I will also apply to my mortise. Now, as you will see, when I go to put it together, I will have some resistance because some of the glue is starting to expand some of the wood fibers. Apply glue to the dovetail, push this in my outer leg. Okay, get it started. You can see squeeze out starting to form as I apply the clamp pressure. Okay, I'm going to use my wet cloth to remove some of the glue across the joint. So what you look right here, you see such a nice joint, and that's how it is all the way across. So removing some of the glue, you can see the match of the waterfall. Here, I have a small ding I want to remove before applying finish. Okay, with a wet rag, I'm going to put on the area that I want to repair. And with a hot iron, I'm going to raise the fibers of the wood. And you may have to do this a couple of times. Again, all I'm doing is steaming the wood to raise the grain. Now I will let that completely dry. With the repaired area completely sanded, the indent is gone. Okay, I haven't finished sanding yet, but I'm going to bring you in and let you look at the waterfall and the bench in general. Now my edges are real sharp, and I'm not going to leave them like that. It's too sharp for the touch, and there's very little surface area there. So the finish will have a hard time staying right at the knife edge of that miter. So I'm going to roll it over to get more surface area for the finish to adhere to. As you can see, the waterfall leg, and it comes up to make the waterfall. I really love how the live edge stretcher looks. Okay, I'm going to do final sanding, remove any blemishes, pencil marks, any glue that I may have missed.